to Cheery Conversations, where we all overcome our uncertainties on juicy topics, one conversation at a time. Each week we sit down with author, speaker, and pastor Sonny Hennessy along with a special guest, and this week our guest is Carrie Reyment. Carrie grew up in my favorite Door County town, Egg Harbor.
Yes.
She met her husband, Corey, in the fall of 2008 in Green Bay, and then they never left Green Bay. They built a local business buying and selling distressed homes, and they find a lot of joy in building businesses together and using their experience to help other couples gain financial freedom. They have 3 kiddos, ages 7, 6, and 1, and they homeschool their kids, and along with that, they like to travel with their kids to give them experiences while they're learning. So you're basically Chip and Joanna.
Yes. Oh, that's true.
So not true.
Yes.
No, basically Chip and Joanna. So maybe we'll get some tips on how to do our homes. But really today we're going to be talking about how you can have these different roles, like being a business owner, an entrepreneur, you're homeschooling your kids, so you're a teacher, and how you can find joy and bring joy to all of those roles. So how did you get started in like the business that you guys are in?
I think for a long time we wanted to own a business and wanted to have just like the time and flexibility that a business brings. And so we tried a few different things, didn't work out very well, and then we just kind of fell into real estate and loved it and never looked back. So that was about 4 years ago that we started this business, and then we both ended up leaving our jobs, and now we just are full-time business owners, which is exciting.
And they open more businesses to support their business.
Wow.
So smart.
Yeah.
What was the first home? Like, do you call it flipping homes? Is that what you call it, or is that not? Is that
So we kind of try not to do that because we realize we're not good at that. So when you say Chip and Joanna, that's funny because it's like
funny.
if you know my husband, like soft office hands, he really doesn't do anything.
Soft office hands.
He will admit
He'll
it.
show us.
Okay. So we just found out we were terrible flippers, and so we actually now just like buy homes and then sell them to other flippers and let them do the work.
Oh, wow.
Which is much more our style.
Okay.
They're so smart.
I love that. I love that. Okay, so you have your 3 kiddos. When did you decide that in the midst of all of this business you're owning and doing that, hey, and we're gonna homeschool?
I think that was kind of the reason we wanted to have a business. So we just really wanted a different, like non-traditional lifestyle, I would say. Like we've always wanted that since we had kids. We just couldn't see ourselves putting them in school, which we have nothing against school. We just were like, we want to be with them and show them the world, and we love to travel. So we wanted to be able to have that flexibility, which is why we started the business. And then homeschooling just is like perfect for our lifestyle. So it's challenging, but
It's so cool.
perfect
Most
for-
people you
I was
do
thinking the same
homeschooling,
thing.
right?
Yeah.
You homeschool because you need it to work with your lifestyle, but you did the opposite.
That is really,
I love
that
it.
is really great. That's what I was thinking exactly. So what I love about where we're gonna go with this conversation is not just what you do, but how you really strive to bring joy into those roles, because those are both high stress roles when you talk
Right.
about owning businesses and being home with your kids and
Right.
teaching them. So what motivates you, and how do you accomplish that?
Well, and let me say this, don't lose your train of thought. When we sat down to record, I said, she's not a 7. And you're like, what? I thought you'd be a 7 because you're bubbly. But 7s, that's our problem. We think 7's the best.
It's true.
And so that everybody that's really bubbly, oh my gosh, is a 7. And you're a 9, which is a peacemaker. So I wonder if that even ties into this, how you do home and you do work and you bring joy, and your staff would say that, your kids would say that. I've seen you interact with them. So yes, now answer the question, now that we know you're a 9.
So I think just in my experience, you really, if we're sitting here having a conversation, it's really easy to be joyful because I don't have my phone and I don't have I'm not stressed out by anything else because we're here and we're present. I think in everything that I do, that's what I'm trying to do, is when I'm homeschooling the kids, like I don't have my other distractions. So then it's really easy to be joyful. Even when you're like folding laundry and doing the normal stuff, if you're just doing that thing, I think it's so easy to be joyful.
Oh my goodness. That's such good insight.
If you just do the one thing, right? Like when I'm running the business, or talking with staff, or having a one-on-one with somebody that's on the staff, it's just like if you're totally present, like how can you not be joyful, right?
That is so true.
So that's a wrap. We call that cheery
so
conversation.
good.
It's all you need to know. I feel like this is a little like Bright Mornings. There's like this nugget and you chew on it and it's like, why was that so small and simple? But absolutely
so impactful.
so impactful.
Yeah. I think about like, because when I am folding my laundry, I'm also thinking about, I have to do like the other 10 things, which then causes the stress. And if someone then asks me a question, someone being my kids or someone, you snap because you're not staying focused. That was so good.
But that kind of like leads, like what I want to ask you is like, so my kids are little, it's so easy, I think, to have little ones because you're their everything. You're the center of their world, you're like, they rely on you for everything. So I think it's a lot easier for me to be there with them and be, blowing their minds with like, oh my gosh, the world is round. In homeschool, he was looking at a map and I was like, but this ocean is this ocean. They're the same. Look at the globe. And he's like, oh, he was so excited. But I'm curious, like, how do you keep, like when your kids get older, like how are you guys being present with your kids and, finding that time to spend with them and really like maintaining that relationship with them?
Well, let me first point out, you just said something that is 100% perspective, which is the opposite of what we hear a lot of women say in the world, which is, you just said, I think it's the easiest because my kids are young. That's a perspective, that's a mind shift. That's just what you said earlier about being in the moment. It's this one narrowly focused, really smart way of looking at it. You're blessed and excited and think it's easiest that they're this age. Whereas some would say, oh my gosh, my kids are so young and it's so hard and I can't keep their attention and it's difficult. And they go into the day, they go into the year, they go into the moment already defeated, and you go into it thinking it's easier. And I'm thinking I have it the best, especially in a pandemic with teenagers, because I don't have them under my feet saying, mommy, mommy, and I'm like, I'm actually like, hey, knock, knock, like, do you want to come play like Elsa and Anna? I'm like, Aubrey, you want to build a snowman? Or Isaiah, hi, I just wanted to talk.
Right.
And so for me, I feel like I have it the easiest and the best because they're my friends. We can have these conversations that are, really just logical and mature, and they're not under my feet. And so I think how we do it, I mean, you can answer this too. How do you do it and connect with them? I think going into it with that perspective of, I have the greatest aged children right now. And every stage, I remember loving the infancy. I mean, I think they're the best when they're tiny little babies. Sean thinks they look like lizards. I think they're the best. I was like,
true.
Yeah, I was like, why do they have to get out of that lizard phase within 1 week? Like, I want them just like, So I loved that. I probably would say that was my most favorite, but it was a week-long season. But I love toddler years, and Sean really loved them because if the kids can talk to him and they're 2, he thinks that's awesome. So then he always said, if we had more kids, I just need them to start at 3. Like, have them and they're already 3. And then I thought elementary school was fun. It's challenging, but I love that. Middle school, I thought, this is the best. When we were youth pastors, I loved the middle school kids. I used to say I loved middle school boys all the time, and Sean said, you have to quit saying that.
Oh my gosh.
You're their youth pastor and you keep saying you love middle school boys. But I did, and I do. They're sweet. They're like little, but yet they're like, their body's too big for their mind, and they're floppy, but they're pure in mind. Anyway, and then high school, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is the best. I love their friends. That is how you make the most of it, is when you think it's the best. What about you?
I agree, and maybe it's just personality too, because I do say to people all the time, I loved every stage. Every stage is my favorite, and even being in the teenage stage, I love
even though it's not easy, we'll be honest.
Yeah, not easy, but love it. And I think your question was, how do you stay focused or find the time for them? Teenage, I feel like the teenage stage is hardest because as much as they love us and think we're cool,
kind of, not really.
They also have this other life and this independence that they're building, and so it's kind of like what you said is so important. Like, take what you can get and be so present in those moments so that they start to be a little fewer because there's just other things in their lives, and that's part of our job, is having them be independent at some point. But just taking what you get and being present and focused.
Well, and you made a good point about you right now. You don't have your cell phone. Like just getting rid of that is huge. My kids used to complain. They were in elementary school and they'd be like, "Mommy, you're always on your phone." And I would always argue back and say, I don't get to be done with work at 2:50 when you get picked up. So it was this, well, a third grader, like I'm not really communicating at the same level, but I'm like, it's not like I'm playing Bejeweled or whatever. I've never played a game on my cell phone in my life. Like, but my problem would be I could scroll or troll on social media, but I'd be like, I'm answering emails in the drive-through lane and then I'm on a call and they get in the car and I stay on the call. And so finally it was when I realized this is my issue. This is not their issue. This is not, they need to adjust that. They need to know most parents work till 5. So how dare you be mad I'm on my phone at 2:50? I had to realize, no, actually I am the bigger person and I'm the older person. And so now when my kids walk in a room, it is very common the thing goes down. Not just set it down because, the set it with the face up and then you're talking to somebody and they're like, you can't multitask, so you're really right now you just checked out the conversation. It goes face down and my ringer's never on, so the chances are I won't be interrupted because yes, you get to teen years and you go, I get very little time, and the time I do get, I need to be so present right now, which you're already doing at this age.
Kind of like what the other thing that I was gonna ask you about is like, how do you like, because you do have a business or multiple businesses and the church and all of these things going on, like they know that you're successful in a lot of things, right? So how do you let them know that you guys do have successful businesses and it's not something to be like ashamed of that you guys are like successful, but how do you have them not have like an entitled mentality? Like, how do they grow up to be like, well, I also want to work hard? Because I think that's what you're modeling is like, or what you were saying is we are working hard. It's not, everything's not easy. But how do you raise them to know that without being like, I don't know. It's such
for sure.
It's such a weird
because you don't
dance.
want to make them hate the life of success. Well, Aubrey did tell someone at school last year, her first week of freshman year, yeah, my parents own Life Church. We're like, we don't own, you can't own a church. We pastor it. We don't own it. They're like, oh, yeah, my parents own lots of stuff. And I'm like, Aubrey, she's trying to get clout.
Right.
Like, yeah, they're the owners. She goes, wait, you don't own it? I said, baby, no, we get paid by the church, but we don't own it. You know what I mean? And so I had to explain all that. I said, you can own a business. So I explained that. But I think that's interesting. But then there's the times where we say, guys, you got to know you don't live a normal life. And there's good about that. And, it's challenging as well. Because we've had, I think they've had friends that they've gone to the exchange with them. And my kids will pay just because they need to pay, but the friends thought they'd just get it for free. And so then there's that. Or Isaiah has a car now and, kids would assume, well, they probably have enough money. We don't have to give gas money. And that's just part of it. But how we teach and train them it's more than words. So they've both had jobs by the time they could get jobs. Do they need it? No. Could we give them the money? Do they have to pay for their own sports? No. None of it, but it's all about work ethic. And they both worked at the exchange. And when they started to complain too much, we made them get real jobs. Even though that was a real job, it was flexible, and they were taking advantage of the fact that they had a job that was a amazing job, and that their mom, if I wanted to, which I didn't, they would come to me and say, can you tell Abby to let me off work tomorrow? I'm like, no. But I got sick of that fight and I thought, no, you need to go get a real job. So then they got a job where some of their shifts were 8 hours and they weren't used to 8-hour shifts. And I'm like, and they're like, I was so hot. And I'm like, good. So because I had a job right away, and all through high school, if I wasn't playing sports, I was required to get a job. Right. And Isaiah, feels like he should train in the off season and then play football. He's like, I can't have, we're like, oh, you can have a job. So I think that's part of it. Your kids will get to an age. And then we did allowance, and we did allowance only if you did your job. It wasn't you get an allowance because you live in this house. It was you get an allowance because Isaiah did the garbage and Aubrey did the dishes. And then we taught them to tithe off of that. And so now they both have the Life Church app. And so when the money from their paycheck goes in their app, and it's so cute. I see Aubrey on there and she's giving her $13 and we, rounding it up to 13 because their paycheck was 112 something. So I think words are important and talking it out, but more important is we could tell them, don't be entitled, you have to work hard. But if we never made them work, that's where entitled adults come from.
Right.
Yeah. And I think too, even like having littles that can't get a job yet, have them like work alongside you. And even as like teenagers who have jobs, I think the conversation's funny, like, I worked all day and they just want to go to their room and not do anything. It's like, oh, no. You still have dishes to do and make sure your room is clean, because life is, you have a job, but then you also have other stuff. So and having them come alongside you when they don't have a job.
And that's when we're the
working
worst.
Working with you,
We're the worst to them when we do that.
Oh, the worst.
Oh my gosh, I just want to go lay in my bed. And I'm like, I'm sorry, do the cat litter first. Like, so it is what it is.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. Did I tell you about my kids tithing? They think that, which is probably like, I don't know, wrong in some way, but when they get money, they have to do $1 to spend, $1 to invest, and $1 to share, which they share with church, so they're tithing, but it's a third, or it's 33%.
Oh my
so
God.
I think but they don't know. So they're gonna grow up and be like,
we only had to do 10?
oh my gosh, this is awesome.
Oh my gosh.
Cute, because it's just easier, like 1, 2, 3, and they just put them in their little spots,
So cute.
But how funny.
I love that. I love that you're doing that. Invest and save too. So smart.
I love that. I know you kind of brought this up a little bit because you mentioned bright mornings, and you kind of had a question about that, about what inspired you to start Bright.
That's what I want to know. Whose idea was it? Where did this come from? It's been like very impactful for me to be a part of Bright, and so I was curious. Where did it come from?
The Lord.
The Lord.
No, we were in Israel. Season and Brian and Sean and I went to Israel, and in some ways we didn't know why we were saying you guys need to go to Israel with us, because although they're both pastors, like by trade, by education, and they're ordained, I mean, really sex trafficking, so, but we just felt this, like, we need them to go. And so they went with us, which has really inspired a bunch of Brian's new songs, and we all felt it took us to a new level with Jesus. But Season and I were there, and the first night we stayed at the Sea of Galilee. And it's not like you'd think in a tent and dirty water. It was like in a resort on the Sea of Galilee. It was pretty great. And we were swimming, and Season said, I feel like since I've gotten into life coaching, like she's part of a business life coaching thing, and it was group life coaching. So it wasn't like we have some people that come to the exchange and you can tell it's a life coach and their client for 3 hours. The reason we know 3 hours is they get the city saying, we need you to move your car. So I'm like, those life coaching sessions are long. But Season had gotten into a business life coaching thing because it's more affordable in a group format to teach. And she said, I feel like we need to do that for the spiritual side. Like, there's nothing, and I'm like, well, there's life groups, there's church. And she's like, yeah, but there's like people who just want more extra, or they won't do church and this is in place of it for right now. And really that first night I was like, I mean, this sounds crazy. And I'm like, I don't know how I do that as a pastor, because aren't people gonna go, isn't that your job? And I'm like, and it is my job to just spiritually lead people. But then we were like, well, then what would we do that would make it so much more than what they can be pastored in? And so we just started to plan. That was April, and we launched in August. And we basically like got our thoughts together in July and August. And were you at the kickoff? You were there. Oh yeah, because we have pictures of you sitting there. We did it in my backyard, and we had 90 there, and 80 some signed up to do Bright. We were like, whoa, maybe 10 will want to do this. So that was pretty awesome. And we're now, we're in our second year, and now we're Bright Mornings. I talked about that little nugget. Now we're just going to have that as an option for people to just do Bright Mornings. And then the other coursework they can do in addition. But where that came from was, there's business coaching. I know you do that. You guys coach, plus you get coached. And there's training in all of these areas for what you do, but spiritually, like that life coach, like let me hold your hand, that it was missing. And I think in the years to come, more people will, I think Lisa Bevere is kind of starting to do something like that, more seeing the need for it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Because I show up on your phones every morning, right?
Yeah.
Every morning in a video.
Or really
So-
late at night. What?
Right, because that's my morning, because I'm not going to wake up early. Yeah.
So how has it impacted you, and has it impacted you spiritually and in other areas of your life?
Yes. So I think like the biggest thing is that it is on your phone in the morning, right? So I have like one of my other questions for you, which I'm doing okay right now with quiet time because I've like kind of tricked my kids into thinking I'm sleeping. So I just like stay in my room. I put like a Keurig in there.
Oh.
So that they don't know I'm awake.
Yes, these are good ideas.
But then they don't get out of bed because if I would get up at like 5 a.m. and I would like sneak, and all of our bedrooms are closed, I'd sneak downstairs and like 5:15, then one kid would come down and be like, "What are you doing? What's up? I'm up now. I'm up for the day. You're up for the day." And so I ended up putting a Keurig in our room, and I just like make my coffee in there and have my quiet time in there. But
So
the thing
smart.
I love about Bright is that it is in the morning. And so even if you're, pressed for time and you're like on your way to work, you woke up late or a kid's sick or something, they're so bite-sized, but you can get so many things out of them. And then it inspires me to read different parts. Even when we weren't going through the Bible like we are now in Bright, it just would be like, oh, I should probably like go reread that, and gives you direction kind of. So that part, like spiritually, is really, really good. It like makes me go read my Bible more. But also, and every other part of my life too, I feel like it's just really good to start your day off that way.
That's so cool. And I noticed that we had one girl who said she watches us while in the shower in the morning. And I said, like how? You can hear it? She goes, I just take it in the shower, which our teenagers eat and take their phone in the shower.
They do?
They do. They do.
How? I'm so confused.
I don't know. And they always have their phone in the shower.
I've tried it. Like I've tried putting it really loud and putting it next to on the shelf, and I can't hear it.
No, they take it right in.
That's awesome.
I don't know if they have
you're
a waterproof.
already in there, like
I guess
wasting time.
Wasting time.
So
yeah.
you might
So
as
she'd
well.
watch. Have a 5 to 8 minute shower and
Yeah,
watch us in the
that's
shower.
perfect.
I'm like, hey, glad it's
What
not
if
a
she
two-way.
accidentally-
We push
Oh my gosh, that's what I would
because it's a video
I
recording.
do get nervous about accidentally pressing the button.
Oh my goodness.
So this is why this is for women. So guys, sorry you watch this.
Sorry.
But typically it is on the way to work in the car, or it's while I brush my teeth and do my makeup. That's I listened to Season this morning as I was doing my makeup, and then I Marco Polo'd her and said, we need to do our module going deeper into what you said this week. Our module's once a week thing of the video teaching and application. And I said, and as I'm saying that, I'm like, sister, that was so good. And I'm crying. And I'm like, I love our Bright tribe. I love our Bright members. And really that's how we got to know each other on a deeper level than we did. Because we connected quickly because our brains work a lot alike. We're just kind of like, there's more to life, to everything.
It's so true.
Yeah.
I love that. I want to, because you guys are very similar in lifestyles as far as being entrepreneurs, having your own businesses. Something we kind of talked about before Sonny got here, before we filmed, was how not to, I don't know if the word ashamed is the right word, but sometimes I know I've heard you say, and you said it too, like you kind of don't let people know exactly like what you've been blessed with, because you just don't want people to think certain things of you. But you've been blessed for a reason, but I know that's a struggle. So how do you combat that? And that's probably how a lot of people feel who maybe are doing really well. They've worked hard and they're doing well for themselves, but maybe they just feel like they can't let everyone know exactly all that they have or what they're doing.
I don't know. You tell me.
You tell me.
I just like I'm quiet. I don't know. It's
Don't
really
you think
difficult.
that, like, even what she said, they're people that worked hard and they are blessed. I think what stops me up is, but what about the people who worked hard and they're not blessed, or worked hard and it didn't pan out? My first question would be, are they tithing? And you guys are tithers. So I can speak to the fact that we're both tithers. So number one, like I I cannot apologize for the blessing because this was, yes, we worked hard, but ultimately because God's first. Like, and if 10%, here's the thing about tithing, if 10% of your income goes to the church, why wouldn't God bless someone to make more than they make? Because 10% will go up. If I make 10,000 a year or I make 100,000, that 10% is bigger. Yeah. And so we at the beginning of the year decided to do 20%. That was scary. But our businesses, our endeavors are doing better. And even just our bills seem to, how are they either less or how are they working? And if God wants his kingdom to grow. Yeah. So now 20%, he wants our income to be a larger amount, so the percentage goes up. So I think tithing's key. And then it's like, you know, oh, my dad gave me my car, but now I'm going to walk around telling all my friends I hate my car. Or, oh no, it's not really my car. Like, no, your dad gave that. Like, that was super nice. That would hurt your dad if you acted like it wasn't your car, you hated your car. And so everything that we're given, if it's given through God because we put him first, we're really hindering just people to see, man, it really adds up in his economy.
So interesting. Good. We had a team meeting yesterday, and we're encouraging our staff to tithe. And most of them do, and there's just one person who just came on our team, and he was like looking at our numbers for our business that we were going over, and he's like, well, you're probably gonna say it's because of tithing. And we're like, well, it is, you know? And so just to show him that, and that's internally, I guess, in our team, but for him to be able to be like, this is like a real thing. And for us, I think tithing is like so easy. And I don't know why that is. It used to not be when we first started tithing, but I just think that we are asked to volunteer a lot. We're asked to do like a lot of things. And out of everything we're asked to do, I feel like tithing's the easiest. Just like, it's so easy to just get, you know, once you get in the habit, it's just like, that's what it is. And it's just a part of life then. It's not like this big thing.
Well, and when you're coming from an entrepreneur business, homeschooling perspective, volunteering, a lot of people who don't have a lot of finances, they're like, well, I'll serve. That'll be my tithe. That's still not tithing, but it does seem like that's my gift. And isn't it awesome that we have people that serve, and then we have people that give, and then we have people that do both, but there's just unique things about each person. And for you guys, to serve, you'd be like, okay, we got to carve that out of our kid time and our work time. And we're seeing that. We, in fact, remember we looked at the church and went, what about people who don't have time to serve? Like, they got to come and go with their kids. They're not here every Sunday. And now that's all blown up and there isn't normal church. So, you know, it's all back to the drawing board. But I know that you guys, your heart for Jesus and that ease in which you just tithe, and then it helps the church, and then it just keeps getting better for you guys. So back to your question. I don't think it will ever be easy, right? To tell people like, oh my gosh, we're making the most we've ever made. It's hard because people, especially non-Jesus people, they're not innately happy for you. It's more innately like jealousy, or there's a, you know, it can hurt people. So I don't have any other ideas other than just be sure in what God's doing, right?
I love that you said something that was really cool, that by like being quiet or hiding, you're hindering people from seeing what God is doing through tithing, through that testimony.
And I think I was joyful before we had a blessed business too.
Yeah.
You know, like I just think that's not, who you are. It's not what it is that brings me joy. It's not that we are doing really, really well. I mean, doesn't hurt, but it also isn't what brings me joy, I guess. You know?
And we're talking about joy versus happiness. And so what happened to you or what didn't happen to you, you waitressed before, but you had joy. And the joy is not the happiness. The happiness would mean we don't have as much money, so that happened to us and now we're sad.
Right. The joy was already rooted and there. Well, thank you so much. I love this conversation. There's 3 things. Keurig in your bedroom.
So smart.
Perspective, I think, is a big deal. And then being present. Like, you can find joy in all these different roles, all these different tasks, if you're just focused and present on what you're doing and who you're with. So thank you so much for the conversation.
Wisdom.
Yeah.
So if you would like to connect with me further, you can go to sonnyhennessy.com, contact me through there.
And then we'll see you next week for another conversation on Cheery Conversations.